Okay, let's unpack this. If you go back to the summer of 1914, World War I is just kicking off. And there was this incredible idea across Europe. You have millions of young men marching off to war. But pretty much everyone, from the lowest ranking soldier to the top generals, thought it would be over by Christmas.
It's a mindset that's almost impossible for us to imagine today. This idea of a quick, clean war. But that whole expectation, that dream of a fast victory, it was completely shattered in just 1 week of fighting. We're talking about early September 1914 at the Battle of the Marne.
Right. And our goal today is to figure out exactly how this one battle, fought right on the doorstep of Paris, completely wrecked the German strategy. And in doing so, it basically locked the world into 4 more years of brutal global war.
To really get the stakes here, we have to start with Germany's game plan, the Schlieffen Plan. And this wasn't just some loose idea. It was a super detailed, rigid blueprint for winning a war on two fronts at the same time.
Which was their biggest nightmare, right? Fighting France in the west and Russia in the east.
Exactly. So the key to the whole plan was speed. Russia was huge, and its railways weren't great, so they knew it would be slow to get its army ready. That meant Germany figured it had about 6 weeks to crush France completely, knock them out of the war before turning to face Russia.
And to move that fast, they couldn't just attack the heavily defended French border.
No, absolutely not. The plan called for this giant, sweeping right hook through the north, and that meant marching straight through neutral Belgium in August 1914.
And that decision, violating Belgium's neutrality, that was a huge political mistake, wasn't it?
A catastrophic one. Britain had a treaty to protect Belgium. The second German troops crossed the border, Great Britain declared war. Suddenly, the British Empire, its powerful navy, and its small but very professional army, the BEF, were in the fight.
Still, even with Britain in the war, that initial German advance was just unstoppable. They blew through Belgium and poured into northern France. I mean, they were covering 25 miles on some days.
Yeah, the French and British were just in a constant state of retreat. It created this feeling that the Germans couldn't be stopped. By the first week of September, German scouts were less than 30 miles from the center of Paris.
That's terrifyingly close.
No, it was. The French government actually packed up and moved to Bordeaux just in case Paris fell. The pressure was unbelievable.
So the German commanders must have been feeling pretty confident. But this is where their greatest strength, that incredible speed, started to become their biggest weakness.
It's all about logistics, the boring stuff that wins wars. The frontline soldiers were completely exhausted. They'd been marching for weeks. And even worse, their supply lines were stretched to the breaking point. They were using horses and trucks that kept breaking down.
So food, ammo, all the essential stuff just couldn't keep up with the advance.
Exactly. The army was running on empty. And that fatigue, that lack of supplies, probably led to the huge blunder made by General von Kluck. He was leading the German First Army on the far right wing of the attack.
The guy who was supposed to circle Paris?
That's the one. The plan said he should sweep around Paris to the west to encircle the city. Instead, thinking the French were already beaten, he decided to turn his army southeast to try and help finish them off.
And why was that so bad? What did that turn to?
By turning inwards, he left his entire right flank, the side of his army, completely exposed. It's like leaving your door wide open. You're inviting the enemy to walk right in and attack you from the side, where you're weakest.
And the French commander, General Joffre, he saw it.
He saw it immediately. He ordered his exhausted French troops and the British to stop retreating at the Marne River. This was it, their one chance. They had to launch a massive counterattack right into that exposed German flank.
And this is where that famous story comes in, right? The taxis?
The taxes of the Marne, yeah. The military governor of Paris, General Gallieni, needed to get reinforcements to the front line fast, so he rounded up about 600 Parisian taxicabs.
Regular taxis from the street.
Yep, just regular city taxis. Each one carried about 5 soldiers. They shuttled thousands of men directly to the battle. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it was a small number of troops. But the symbolic impact was enormous. It became this incredible symbol of French unity and determination.
But the real turning point on the battlefield was that gap.
A gap, yes. As von Kluck's army turned, a massive 30-mile-wide gap opened up between his army and the German Second Army next to it. It was basically an open door into the German rear.
And British and French just poured into it.
They moved right into that space, threatening to split the German armies in two and surround them. This is the moment the Schlieffen Plan really fell apart.
And the German high command was?
Yeah.
Where, exactly?
The head of the army, General von Moltke, was hundreds of miles away in Luxembourg. Communication was terrible. He had no real idea what was happening on the front lines. The Allies had seized the initiative.
So by September 9th, the situation was desperate for the Germans.
Utterly desperate. They sent an officer, a Lieutenant Colonel Hensch, to figure out what was going on. He saw the chaos, the risk of encirclement, and on his own authority, he ordered a retreat.
The whole German army. A retreat.
The whole right wing. They pulled back about 40 miles until they could set up a defensive line along the Marne River, and that was it. The dream of a quick victory was dead. For the German soldiers who had seen the glow of Paris on the horizon, it was a crushing blow.
And again, it comes back to logistics. The French were close to their supply bases, using their railway system to move troops and supplies around.
Meanwhile, the German supply lines were completely broken. Soldiers were running out of food, water, ammunition. Their army was physically incapable of fighting anymore.
So, as the Germans pulled back to the Marne River, they stopped and they started to dig.
Right. At first, just simple pits, little holes to get some cover from the constant artillery and machine gun fire.
But those little holes didn't stay little for long.
No. The French and British dug in opposite them, and everyone quickly realized that trying to attack across open ground against modern weapons was basically suicide. So those simple pits got deeper, they connected them, they put up barbed wire.
And this is it. This is the birth of trench warfare.
This is the moment. The war of movement was over, the stalemate had begun. That line of trenches that started at the Aisne eventually stretched all the way from the Swiss border to the North Sea. The next 4 years of war were defined right there.
But that victory, that miracle of the Marne, it came at a staggering cost. In just that 1 week of fighting, the estimates are something like 250,000 casualties for each side.
500,000 men, killed, wounded, or missing in a single week. This was the new reality of industrial war. Entire villages were just wiped off the map by artillery. It was a scale of suffering no one had ever imagined.
So it's called a miracle because it literally saved France from being defeated in the first 6 weeks of the war.
Absolutely. It stopped the German army cold and proved they weren't invincible. And it forced every general to realize that this war wasn't going to be about clever maneuvers anymore. It was now a grinding war of attrition, a test of which country could endure the most pain and produce the most shells.
So the Battle of the Marne saved Paris, but it also doomed the world to 4 more years of this horrific trench warfare. It set the stage for the rest of the Great War.
And what's really fascinating to think about is that the stalemate happened because defensive technology was suddenly perfect for the logistics of 1914. You could supply a trench forever by rail. But offensive logistics, trying to get men and supplies across no man's land, was completely impossible. The Marne taught everyone that lesson the hard way.
Good luck with your studies.